Jackson on the drive, kicks it out for man. Man, three-pointer, bang! Oh, what a man!
Magic down the middle, just what I thought. A hook shot at 12, good!
Here's Michael at the foul line, a shot on Elo, good!
The Bulls win it! They win it!
Now there's a steal by Murr, underneath the DJ, going up over Bell, ball away, yes! Yes! At the buzzer, he does it! Was there ever a doubt? A Smith screen, Posey will defend.
Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life!
It's a physical game.
Oh, me, oh, my! A monster jam by Blake Griffin!
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another NBA playoff preview here on Dime Dropper for the 2023 NBA playoffs. For this one, the last one, the NBA Finals. We are finally here. It is almost June, and we've got a finals that is absolutely not for the casual fan. This is one for the diehard basketball fans. The Denver Nuggets, the number one seed in the Western Conference, making it out, and the Miami Heat, the 8th seed in the East, did start out as the 7th seed and lost in the play-in. And joining me today, after coming on for the conference finals preview where his team won in a sweep. I don't even think he called a sweep on that one. It's the real deal out of Park Hill, but it's not Chauncey Billups. It is Swipa Cam, whose Denver Nuggets are in their first NBA Finals. Swipa, man, just let me know, how does it feel? You finally got your long-awaited revenge on the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be even better, if they have an opportunity, they win the NBA Finals. But I think the city is happy that the Nuggets are meeting expectations and that they made it to the finals. I think I predicted, obviously, before the season that they would. I think a lot of people outside of Denver, the Nuggets they've been the only team that hasn't actually have been successful at the major markets. The Broncos have been to 5 Super Bowls. They went to 5 during the Elway era. They've gone to 2 during the Peyton Manning era. They won 3 of them. The Avalanche have won 3 Stanley Cups. Even the Rockies in 2007 made the World Series. And so, the Nuggets are just kind of coming along, finally kind of meet that championship pedigree that the city is used to. And I think the city is responding with the expectation of winning. So I think everybody will be even happier if they're able to close out this series. I think right now this is like a fulfillment of everybody's expectation because, again, when Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. are all healthy, they have made at least the Western Conference Finals. If Jamal Murray and Jokic are healthy, if Jamal Murray goes 8 of 18 from in Game 7 instead of 4 of 18, then they're looking at going to 3 Western Conference Finals in the 3 playoff runs that they've had. This is in 2019 when CJ McCollum had 37 points and, they won by 4. And Jamal had one of his worst playoff games ever. So they have always won, but then now, obviously, after the Aaron Gordon trade, March 25th, 2021, they go 8-0 in the first 8 games, looking like a dominant team. They lose to the Celtics and to the Warriors, and Jamal Murray, he ends up tearing his ACL on like April 2nd. So everything after that point was thrown up in the air. And I think the city is just kind of like, all right, bet, this is what we expected to happen, and hopefully they can finish the job.
You mentioned the Avalanche. They won the Stanley Cup last year. Mm-hmm. So that's something that people aren't really talking about is this could be back-to-back titles for Denver teams.
Yeah, this would be 3 championships for the major teams in the city of Denver since 2015. The Broncos with the Super Bowl, the Avalanche last year with the Stanley Cup, and then the NBA Finals. There's not a lot of cities that could boast something like that. So I think that just goes to show you, like, Denver is a sports city, primarily a Broncos city, but that's just because Nuggets have never given them an opportunity to ride the wave. And so, now you have a 28-year-old superstar, a 26-year-old Jamal Murray, a 24-year-old Porter, and a 27-year-old Aaron Gordon. So hopefully they're locked in for years to come.
Now, let's look at the initial storylines of this series. That's been a huge thing. People are saying, some of the haters are saying there's not any interesting storylines. It's not compelling. But I think there's obviously so many great ones. You have Denver in their first ever NBA Finals. You have Nikola Jokic, who is on the cusp of doing something so special. I remember, for many years now, hearing people say that a center will never be the best player on a championship team again in this new NBA. Yeah. Jokic is on the verge of changing that narrative and maybe getting, bringing the big man back, even though he's so unique, but maybe teams will look at their big man as someone that can lead them places again. And then you have Jamal Murray, as you said, coming off the ACL injury and playing at such a high level. MPJ, who my Clippers passed up on because of his back, and now he's a starter on a potential championship team. Aaron Gordon, who a lot of people were saying, didn't really achieve his potential out of Arizona, but now he's kind of in this Andrew Wiggins kind of role, guarding the best player and reinvented himself as this great role player. And then you have the Miami Heat, who are an 8 seed, coming to the finals for the, only team besides the 99 Knicks. Jimmy Butler's been amazing. They nearly blew a 3-0 lead. I mean, just for a second, taking your fandom out of it, what do you think about this series, for the neutral? I know a couple of years ago we had that 2021 Bucks Suns, and people were like, oh, no one's going to watch it. But this one feels as though these are really the two teams that deserve to be here. The Suns, as you know, and they beat us injured. They beat you injured. They beat the Lakers injured. The Bucks beat the Nets injured. It really feels like these two teams really are the best teams in these playoffs. How do you feel, though, about the series overall, storyline-wise?
Yeah, I just think it's just crazy that I think it's not even more people not wanting to watch it. It's just the narrative that people aren't going to watch it. That's been the demonstrative tone. I think this idea that the NBA is so against its own product that fan bases are like, well, I'm not going to watch because I'm not interested. The NFL, I've never watched Patrick Mahomes in Kansas. And I brought this point. Patrick Mahomes is in Kansas City. Joe Burrow is in Cincinnati. Lamar Jackson is in Baltimore. I'm watching every single one of those games. I don't care who they're playing. They're the Super Bowl I'm watching. Like, that's so crazy to me. You don't want to watch overwhelming talent. Jimmy Butler had a chance to win his first NBA Finals. Nikola Jokic has a chance to win his first NBA Finals. You could be watching. George Karl said this years ago. George Karl said a couple years ago that Nikola Jokic, if he does what he needs to do, take care of business, wins a couple championships, he could be a top 10 all-time player. This is George Karl, one of the seventh winningest coach, I think, in NBA history. So, again, you could be watching one of the greatest players of all time, and you are watching one of the greatest players of all time in their prime with a healthy roster. And then on top of that, you get to watch Jimmy Butler, who is one of the best American storylines in the NBA. Came from Marquette, drafted by the Bulls, defensive aide, goes to the Bulls, become an all-star player, gets traded, shipped around, goes to Minnesota, goes to 76ers, revitalizes the Miami Heat program, 3 Eastern Conference Finals in 4 years, 2 finals in 4 years. Like, why would you not want to watch that? Caleb Martin, the resurgence, going from a no-name player with no tick last year, averaging 19 points a game in a Eastern Conference Final, takes down Tatum, takes down Jaylen Brown. And then I got Kyle Lowry, NBA champion 2019, coming off the bench. Tyler Hero might come back for game 3. Duncan Robinson, resurgence project, couldn't play any defense. Now he's playing back in the NBA final. And then you get like Hightower coming off the bench, a no-name, but playing great two-way ball. And then you get Bam Adebayo, one of the best defenders of his generation, and you get a chance to watch him, see if he can square up versus the best offensive player in his generation. And then on top of that, you got Max Strus. You got players like Gabe Vincent with no background coming out of nowhere with a top coach of all time in Eric Spoelstra. And they got a GM and team president in Pat Riley, who led the New York Knicks on their greatest run ever, the Miami Heat on their greatest run, and then eventually, well, obviously with the Lakers and all that stuff, everybody remembers that. But then eventually taking this team, leading it, getting LeBron, getting Chris Bosh, and taking them to 4 finals, basically. And you telling me that's not a compelling storyline because that's not LA, that's not Boston, that's crazy. Not only is it casual, it's disrespect to the game. If you're a basketball fan, watch hoops. Like that, I can make up all kind of stuff. If the Heat were playing versus the Memphis Grizzlies, both franchises, the Memphis has never won anything. Zach Randolph, Paul Gasol, Tony Allen. This is a nod to that era with John Moran and all these players, Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr., Xavier Tillman. You telling me you can't watch sports because you don't have big market bias? Like, that's crazy to me. So, and you could tell ESPN Countdown when the Lakers were getting swept out the building, they all sad and depressed. I wanted to be in LA. I wanted to visit Malibu. I wanted to see all these great cities. I want to hang out in the sunshine and the beach. Well, guess what? You here to relax? You here to tell a Kim Kardashian story? You here to watch basketball? Because I need to know. Because I'm getting ready to watch one of the best players of all time playing in the playoff series in an NBA final in the first time in franchise history. And I don't care who on the court. So, Dom, I just ain't never been with that. That's always been weird behavior to me. But, again, I know everybody can't watch the game the same way. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I think you nailed it best. I'm a basketball fan, so I'm always going to watch anything that's the NBA Finals, of course, any NBA playoff series. And this one, I mean, I'm very excited for, especially because you mentioned, you know, with that big market thing. I'm from Los Angeles, so we are the big market. Like, I'm very excited to, and I think a lot of people feel this way. people don't really hate the Heat or the Nuggets. So like there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this series without hating a team. And I think also though that could hurt ratings. There are people that hate watching teams, but I think there's a level of no stress that a lot of people have going to watch this finals like me and are just excited to see either team win. Now I am pulling for you guys a little bit because you've never won a championship and the Clipper fan in me has that sympathy. Whereas the Heat, I have seen them win all 3 of their titles. And this is interesting to see because we didn't see this Jimmy Butler Heat rendition make the finals with fans. So this is going to be the first time we see the Heat with fans in the finals since 2014, since LeBron and the Heat got smacked by San Antonio. Let's talk about the Lakers series for a second. So I'm pretty sure you had Nuggets in 6. I had Nuggets in 7. What were your thoughts on the sweep? I mean, every single game was close. I mean, to sweep the Lakers, to sweep the great LeBron James, only the 3rd time that's ever happened. And I've been saying this on my channel. The first 2 times LeBron's been swept, he was clearly the underdog. Like the 2007 finals and the 2018 finals. You can say he was clearly the underdog here, but you know as well as I, there were tons of people picking the Lakers to win the series against you. Tons. And you beat them in a sweep. All the games were close. To me, the biggest difference was in every single game, you had the best closer, Jokic or Murray. I mean, game 2 felt really shaky, and then Murray just went nuclear. I mean, let me know what your thoughts were on the series, how you guys played, and, I would assume that makes you more confident going into the finals that you swept them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was being a little too generous to the Lakers, and I think I was underrating the Nuggets a little bit, but I think it's just out of respect for LeBron. But I realized you can't really make basketball takes off like respect. And I think that's when you just said going into the series, they're getting swept. Oh, you think LeBron getting swept? It's like, it's not about that. Like sometimes you just ain't barely the second best player in the court, depending where you had Jamal Murray. And then on top of that, your team isn't better. The chemistry isn't better. The culture isn't better. The timing just isn't right. So look, there's no shame in it. LeBron got swept by Tim Duncan in 2007, Steph Curry and Kevin Durant in 2018. And he got swept by Nikola Jokic. Those are 4, I think, at the end of their careers, 4 of the top 12 to 15 players of all time. So it's not like you're getting swept by a bum or just an all-star. So, it happens. I think that the Nuggets are able to carry that confidence over because they went 12-3 to the Western Conference when they were predicted to lose versus the Phoenix Suns. And then obviously with the Lakers, great franchise. They never beat them in a series before, never swept a team before. They had all the pressure on their side. LeBron James had only lost 1 conference finals in his NBA career. That was to Dwight Howard in 2009. You had all the narrative, and you get swept out of there. So basketball is about chemistry. It's about rhythm. It's about belief. It's about your commitment to execution. And the Nuggets, man, they commit to doing that at a higher level than anybody else, and they would repeat that process more than anybody else. So I think the Heat, they're a great team. I think they're going to have a lot to say in this series, and so it's going to come down to who wants it more and who can execute at a higher level.
I'm going to respond to this comment real quick. Someone said, Dime not saying anything to Swipa, saying Jokic is top 15 all time already. He never said that. He said he could be top 15 all time. So I'm not that.
But just to be clear, Dime, I also said that before the year that if Jokic, Giannis, and Luka finish their career like we think they will, I think those are 3 of the top 15 players ever. I don't think there's a basketball argument by the end of the time they're done that you can say they're not 3 to 15 best. I think Luka hasn't won anything yet. Haven't even won an MVP. But I think if we are able to look at his game, it's like the dude is he's been 25-5 since his rookie year, 29-9 every year. If he wins a championship, Dime, or wins a couple MVPs,
he needs that the championships for me are really big. Right, I think if Jokic wins this title, I mean that puts him in a category with only a couple centers. I remember us talking about this in a space, but the top 5 centers to me is really hard to break into. Like it's going to take some work, but you can make an argument for me after this title as high as 6. And there's been some great. I think center might be the deepest position in terms of like GOATs in NBA history. Because I mean, the top 5 was Russell, Hakeem, Wilt, Shaq, and who am I forgetting? Kareem. It's just so hard to break into. But I enjoy Jokic. I enjoy watching Jokic so much. And I want to say too. So one thing you talked about all the narratives. Actually, no, I'm gonna wait on that. Let's talk about the Heat series real quick against the Celtics. What an amazing series this was. 3-0 up. They tied the series 3-3. Did you think they were going to blow it? Because I really thought they were going to blow it.
Man, it's just really hard to beat a team 4 times, man. Like
in a row.
Yeah, bro. Like 4 times. And then think about all the energy it took the Celtics to get back in the series. And they had to claw. And then by the time game 6 ended, they barely won because it was a tip in from Derek White. So really, without just miraculous clutch play and then some mistakes. Jimmy Butler wasn't good, by the way, games 3, 4, and 5, and then wasn't great in game 6 until the fourth quarter. So they had plenty of opportunity because the best player in the Heat wasn't playing well. So, but beating them 4 straight times, man, the level of energy that it would have taken to do that, the fact that they even got back in the series is impressive. But again, the Celtics were like this all year. They got blown up by 50 by the Oklahoma City Thunder without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They were beat by the Orlando Magic 3 times, I want to say. The signs were there. It's just that everybody was saying, well, their talent, their history. At the end of the day, the Heat were just a better team when it mattered most, and not in the regular season, but in the playoff. And, you know, I'm not even like really all that surprised. I think the Heat, again, showed their flaws that they even allowed them to get back in the series like that, because the Heat, again, their shooting variance is crazy. They shot 45% in the series from 3, I want to say. So, yeah, if you do that, you're going to beat some really good teams. But I think all this really says that the Heat were really good, but the Celtics were also very flawed.
Yeah, the Miami Heat are really impressing me in the sense that their whole knock was their supporting cast was super inconsistent. They had regressed from last season. And when we saw Tyler Hero go down, these guys have all just stepped up like crazy. Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin's performance in this conference finals was like just ridiculous. I mean, he's averaging 14.6 rebounds in the playoffs, and he's shooting 56.6% from the field and 44% from 3. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. As you mentioned, I mean, Jimmy Butler, he has been amazing in the playoffs. He had a rough patch there in the series, but do you think Jokic and Butler have been the 2 best players in the playoffs so far? Because everyone's been talking about these are maybe the 2 best coaches remaining. Spo and Malone have done such a great job, and I honestly would agree with that take. But what about the players? You think Jokic and Butler have been the 2 best players in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think Butler was definitely number 2. But again, man, he really slipped in that series. And he's averaging about 24.5, 25 points a game since series 1. First series, he averaged 37 or 38. And then ever since that, he's really dipped. So, you know, he's kind of come back to earth a little bit. So I think Butler, you could make an argument for number 2. You know, everybody's hating on Anthony Davis now because Anthony Davis got cooked by Joker. But he averaged 27 in that series and 14 rebounds and 2 blocks and like 2 steals almost. So, again, I think AD has an argument. I think Devin Booker was incredible over the run that he had in the first couple of rounds. So I think it's fair to say that it's still Jimmy Butler. I thought Jason Tatum played really well, even though obviously he turned his ankle in game 7 and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that Jimmy Butler's still been the second best player in the playoffs.
Yeah, so Jimmy, he's averaging 28, 7 and 6. Those are like, LeBron numbers damn near. 48% from the field, 35.6% from 3. I think part of what you got to think about is that injury he sustained in game 1 against the Knicks. I don't know if it's just he's playing against higher level competition and you're seeing because Jimmy Butler, as good of a scorer as he is, he does have some limitations. He heavily favors it going to his right. He jumps off 2 feet a lot, comes to a full stop. And you saw, and I think one thing that's going to be big for the Nuggets paying attention to is when the Celtics stopped biting for his pump fakes, huge changes in terms of, his shot making and the shots that he could get off. And I think that's a big thing. Now for Miami, as I said, the main thing for me is the supporting cast. I kept picking against them because I felt like they were going to come back to earth. But they just keep playing at a high level. I don't even know what to say. Like Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, all these guys are playing so well. You mentioned Tyler Hero. I'm honestly kind of convinced they might play better without him. But that we'll see if he comes back. I just think that taking the ball away from him, let other guys shine, and their defense looks to be a little bit better. I think the big wild card for the Heat, though, is Bam Adebayo offensively. He's the one that I always – I think to win a championship, he needs to average like 20 points. I don't think he does that consistently enough. His touch around the rim is very inconsistent and doesn't have that confidence. Like when he catches the ball, he'll be left. You guys are going to leave him open for that mid-range. And he sometimes makes it, sometimes doesn't. But he never gets the ball and says, oh, you're giving me space? All right, I'm going to make you pay with confidence, like conviction in his shot. To me, that's my thing with Bam. He's, as you said, one of the better defenders of this era. He's so good. But offensively, I think he can leave a little bit to be desired. But let's think about this. So a lot of people are talking about rest versus rhythm. You guys have been on vacation for a while, or getting ready, I should say. And the Heat are just coming off a grueling 7-game series. How much of a factor do you think rest is going to be, especially given that you have home court advantage and you're undefeated at home in the playoffs?
Yeah, Kevin Pelton on Zach Lowe's show yesterday, he brought up the ESPN stats and information, or stats and data. And he said that home teams going into the finals with at least 5 days more of rest than their opponent. They're 8-1 in game ones, and they're 8-1 in those series. So the Nuggets have 9 days of rest. They have a 7-day rest advantage, I think, over the Miami Heat. The Heat just finished playing now 2 days ago, or 1 day ago, 1.5, depending on what we want to do the timeline. So, I mean, NBA history says that the rest matters way more, and that, going from Boston 7-game series, fighting for your life, taking 2 days off, and then going to Mile High City to play against the best team in the NBA and the best player in the NBA, that could, end up being a big part of it. But, I mean, ultimately we'll see. I think that the Heat are going to be well prepared. I think Spoelstra has brought up today, actually, in the press conference that, he thinks that if you could tip the ball off of Mount Everest and they'll be ready to play. So they obviously believe in who they are. So, we'll definitely see.
Yeah, Eric Spoelstra, I mean, how much does he worry you? Just being the great coach that he is, having more experience in the finals as Mike Malone. I mean, obviously Eric Spoelstra can't play, but does that worry you a little bit because of how tricky he is and how creative he can be?
Yeah, not worry, but it's coming, I guess is what I would say. Like, the adjustments are coming, the zones are coming, the schemes are coming. They're going to front Joker. They're going to try to be really, messy with how they're disrupting the two-man game. Offensively, they're going to try to attack the Nuggets' weak points. I think a lot of that is you just understand that it's coming and you're just waiting for the adjustments, and then you make the adjustments when they need to be made. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do with Joker, and there's only so much you can do with the Denver Nuggets offense. But the fact of the matter is you have to outscore Denver, and, that's going to be the math problem. So as good of a coach as he is, can you do that enough times, quarter by quarter by quarter, and game by game by game, to where you could win multiple games by having to play catch up consistently? So, we'll find out. I think he's an incredible coach. He may be the best coach in the NBA right now, but I think there's a lot of things they're going to throw at the Nuggets, but the Nuggets are just going to have to be responsible and adjust correctly. And on the other side, Michael Malone, he's going to put them in a lot of issues and give them a lot of challenges as well. And he's going to test them to see if Jimmy Butler and Bam and Kyle Lowry and Duncan and Gabe and Strus, and, they're going to see if they can figure that stuff out.
Bam Adebayo, I mentioned him earlier. He's averaging 17 points, 9 rebounds right now in the playoffs. I think that, as I said, I think it's going to have to go to 20. They're going to win this series. I just think that you guys are the best team they've played so far, point blank. They're going to have to be the best versions of themselves. You mentioned the zone thing. I wanted to talk about this because we saw the Celtics have a lot of trouble with it. I personally think that they're going to get carved apart playing a zone against you guys because you put Jokic at that high post, even though, let's say they play like a 2-3, easy. Jokic at that high post, going to carve them apart. You have shooters, you have cutters on the baseline. And the main thing that the Celtics really lacked is a guy that could catch the ball at that foul line and just turn and shoot. Jokic, we've seen that he hits that mid-range shot at the foul line contested. He's damn sure can hit it open with space. So I think that's an easy fix, or an easy counter. But I think, they throw a lot of this matchup zone. They'll go like 1-2-2 for a second. But I think you have Jokic in the middle of the floor. It changes a lot of things. And I think you guys have the shooters to counter all that. So I think when teams have guys that can punish you in the mid-range and space the floor properly, and basically in the middle of the floor, I think that's part of the reason why zones work so much better in today's NBA is that guys are not flashing in the middle of the floor and making dudes pay a lot of times, and Jokic will. So that's why I think the zone is not going to be a great look. As far as the pick and roll, we always talk about how you're going to guard the Jokic-Murray pick and roll. See, Bam can switch 1 through 5, but you're not throwing Gabe Vincent onto who do you think is going to be taking Jamal Murray for the most series for the Heat?
It's probably going to start off with Gabe. Butler will take him in clutch situations. Because I think they're going to have to put
a lot of Martin. I feel like.
Well, Martin's going to have to be on Michael Porter, or you're going to have to put Strus. So the problem is that they'll be at a huge length deficit because you can't put Strus on KCP. Maybe they do. But then you don't want to put Gabe on Michael Porter because Michael Porter is 6'10". Gabe is like 6 feet tall. So I think it's going to start off it. But the thing is, the Nuggets aren't just going to let you do that. They're just going to find the match just like they did with D'Angelo Russell. We're going to put whoever we want in actions, and I'm going to get Gabe or whoever. And matter of fact, if I want Jimmy Butler away from the play, then I'm going to put Jimmy Butler on. I mean, we're going to do all the actions. We're going to get everything going to the rim. Now you got to play Joker with this man with just Bam Adebayo. And Bam Adebayo is not a great rim protector. That's not his best asset. So Yeah, man. I think they're going to matchup hunt for sure. I think Gabe probably should start on him if he starts. If they don't start Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I doubt they'll start Kyle Lowry. I think he played better off the bench. I think it'll be Gabe Vincent. I doubt we see any. You think we see any of Kevin Love and Cody Zeller in this series? Because we saw them kind of get fizzled out at the end. And here's the thing. Here's my biggest issue with Denver. With the Heat. Besides the whole zone not really working that well, and obviously in man-to-man, it's hard enough to guard these guys in the first place. You have the dilemma of who's guarding Jokic. So you have the Bam Adebayo could guard Jokic thing, but then it's like I just don't think – I know nobody can guard Jokic one-on-one. Who do you throw at him to have Bam in that help side like you had Anthony Davis roaming? They don't have a big forward like a LeBron or Rui Hachimura. Like, you're going to put Kevin Love on him? You're going to put Max Strus on him? I just think that they lack those big forwards. Maybe Highsmith. They lack those big forwards. And I think that's what you guys have is having Aaron Gordon and MPJ. You have two legit like 6'9", 6'10" guys in the front court. They played Jimmy Butler at the 4 a bunch in that series. I mean, how problematic do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Love will get minutes. We'll have to see how useful they'll be. He'll be important for them. But, again, there's just so many matchup problems because if they decide they want to put K-Love onto Jokic and then have Bam free roam off of AG, well, again, they're just going to put them in action and see if they can get you to switch. Then if you don't commit to the switch, pin downs, back screens, all the stuff that gets you discombobulated while you're trying to retreat and get back and help. So if Jamal Murray comes and set a screen for Bam Adebayo, does Bam leave him and then let Gabe trail him and fight through the screen? Well, then we know what's going to happen. It's going to be a back screen. You don't go with it. Jamal humps around. It's going to be a DHO into a wide open 3. Or if you adjust correctly, Jamal Murray gets the ball top of the key, pump fake, dribble penetration. All right, now we got Jokic in a 2-on-1 situation with a trailer. Am I going to dump off the Jokic for a floater? Or am I going to get a little midi here with Jamal Murray shooting 52% in the playoffs? Or am I going to get dump off to Joker and then allow it to AG because you're already out of position, or Michael Porter Jr. corner 3? Adam Mares from DNVR Sports yesterday, he did say that he thinks that maybe what if they tried Cody Zeller and Bam Adebayo to put like crazy size on the court? I don't think they'll do it. But again, they just don't have a lot of great options. Now, Spoelstra will have some things, but this is what I'm trying to tell you, though, Don. As soon as Joker figures it out, you can't do it anymore. That's what happened with Rui Hachimura. As soon as they figure out what you're doing, it's over. Because what they did then in game 3, when Jokic had 15 points in the fourth quarter, they were basically had Rui and they had AD and they had Rui guarding Joker, and they didn't want to switch it. So they did an empty side pick and roll with Jamal Murray and basically said, look, and then they had Dennis Schroeder on Jamal. Do what you want. Now, you can switch this, and I'm going to get Dennis on me, or you can keep this off, and then you want to just run over the top and run the hump. Well, then Jokic is shooting 47% from 3, or he's cutting and diving. So, again, they're going to have answers for all that. And so it's about the Heat being able to do it enough to throw off the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, geez, the Nuggets offense is so tough to stop. One thing I love about this series is we have two teams that play off ball movement, not too much ball pounding. Yeah. I think the Boston Celtics really showed us that, yeah, their offense was as good as it was in the regular season. It was a little too predictable. Denver and Miami, definitely more creative. That action you talked about, one of my favorite ones, Jeff Van Gundy was given a lot of props in the conference finals where Jamal Murray sets a back screen for Aaron Gordon, and then he'll come off for a little dribble handout with Jokic. That is so hard to guard, man. I don't even know how I would guard it, but just so many different options for Denver. As we close out, do you think it feels a little like it sounds like the way we're talking? Obviously, I'm with a Nuggets fan, so like it's going to be more Denver centric, but I really feel like you guys got this. Do you think it feels like overconfident?
No, because the team doesn't feel that way. Michael Malone hasn't communicated that. He said it can be the hardest thing I've ever done. I think the difference is recovering the game. So this is how I always think about series, Dom. This is why when we were talking about the Clippers Nuggets, who has more advantages that the other team has to solve between the two in a matchup?
Clearly, you guys have the more advantages.
So what does that mean then? So if you have more advantages and you have the best player and you have the more talent, like that's a mathematically, even statistically, there's a lot you have to overcome to be able to get to a victory point. Because you know what? You can beat those advantages a game at a time. But doing that 4 times in a 7-game series is where that becomes difficult. The Celtics process was awful, terrible. They literally were facing a 3-2 zone at one point in time, and they were in game 4, I want to say, game 3, and the Celtics were just passing the ball on the perimeter, and they were just throwing up contested threes. Like, what are you doing? And then on the other side of it, the New York Knicks weren't beating the Heat. Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle not beating Jimmy Butler and the rest of that roster. And then, again, as I said all season, as you heard me say, the Bucks were a bad offensive team. Giannis was not good offensively this year. And when it came down to getting a bucket, they couldn't do it. They didn't have shot makers. They couldn't hit their free throws. Giannis was running from the ball at the end of the fourth. Just add it up. And they were slow. They have all these wing defenders, and none of them could stop Jimmy Butler. So, again, if you just go through how they got there, they were just a better team. The problem is the Nuggets have faced elite talent, and they've just been able to beat you down. They're more physical, they're bigger, and they have a bigger chip on their shoulder. And on top of that, when you have all that and you're more talented, and again, in any series, I was taking Jordan in any series. I was taking LeBron in any series. If LeBron James had comparable talent to who we were playing against and everybody was healthy, I'm taking Bron every time. But if you got Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, and then you got Kevin, you can't do nothing about that. It's over. It's done. So for me, it's like you have Jokic. They don't. You have Jamal Murray. You have a team that's been together for years. You have the chemistry, the dynamics. And again, it's not like you're like overconfident. You just know what you know who you are. So I just think that all that together, man, it's just I just think it's going to be a challenge. It's not to say Miami can't do it, but it's going to be a challenge.
Do you think Butler has to outplay Jokic for the Heat to win?
But that's what I'm saying. So, Don, let me ask you. So this is what I mean. I think for the Miami Heat to beat the Denver Nuggets, Butler has to at least be on the level of Joker to almost outplaying Joker in the series.
Yeah, I agree. Then my next one is Bam averaging 20. That's my other one.
But when has he done that in the playoff series?
I know. It's tough.
He wouldn't shoot layups over Derek White, bro.
I know. They're going to have to really, really get stops, which is so hard to do. Something that everyone has said in every series is, well, we're going to put Jokic in the pick and roll and exploit him. The thing is, Jokic, to me right now, defensively is having a very similar run to how like Dirk had in 2011, where he's been good. Like he's been decent. He's held his own. He hasn't really been exploited like that. I mean, maybe there's been some stretches in a couple of quarters, the most I can think of, that he's been attacked in pick and roll or whatnot, but he has really held his own. Part of that's because of the great defensive personnel around him, but also like there's a big difference to me between guys that aren't good at defense and guys that are unwilling defenders. Like Jokic may not get off the ground like that, but I don't think he's a bad defender because he knows angles, he knows the scheme, and you're going to get high effort from him. And then as we saw in the last series, Anthony Davis wasn't able to abuse him one-on-one at all. So to me, Jokic, he has not been a liability. He has not been bad. He's been very solid defensively. And same with Murray has been very solid to me defensively. What do you think of those two guys? Because everyone was saying, their best two players aren't good enough defensively to win the championship. They've really held their own. And it does remind me of that 2011 Dirk. Because people always go to Dirk. He wasn't a good defender. I was like, well, he held his own when he needed to. That's all that matters. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, Murray's the weak link relative to the rest of the roster when it comes to defense. So Jimmy Butler's going to hunt him. But the problem is Murray is still 6'4.5". So, like, if LeBron's hunting him, sure, LeBron is a super freak. So he's bigger than anybody. Like, he's going to do that. But, if Jimmy's going to hunt Murray, then, again, you live with it. But also, like, you just don't panic in those situations. So I think that's the thing. Like, Kevin Durant, when he was getting isolations on the wing, they said, let him have that. Just contest it too. That's all you have to do. If he misses, he misses. If he makes, he makes. But if you miss, we're running. And I think that's the thing. If Jimmy misses and he had Jamal Murray on him, they are running. And they're going to see if they can get a size mismatch against you. And Jokic is going to beat Bam down the court. And people are going to be like, how is he doing this again? But that's just what he does. So, again, I think you're going to have to live with Jamal Murray at times being isolated on Jimmy. If you get to an end of a game situation and you don't want to do that, then, hey, you know what? Go under. You know why? Because he is shooting 28% from three since the first round, Jimmy Butler. So if he's going to make those shots, then he's going to make some of those shots. But you know what? I'm going to have to live with it the same way you got to live with LeBron doing it.
Yeah, we're probably going to see a lot of Aaron Gordon on Jimmy Butler, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Gordon has really held his own on just about everybody so far. I think Murray's going to have a really good series. He's just been great in every single series. He just finds a way. And I think one thing that's been so great for your defense is when Jokic comes out and hedges, you have MPJ and Aaron Gordon on the backside, and that's just huge. You have basically secondary and rim protection. But yeah, overall, Denver Nuggets, Miami Heat, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to go with the Nuggets in 6 games. What are you going with?
Yeah, last night on the Den Vendor show, I gave my official prediction. I'm going to drop it on Twitter today, but I'm going to respect the Heat, and then I'm also going to just expect what the Nuggets have done. I'm actually picking the Nuggets in 5. Okay. Again, this is not like about like the Heat not being good. The Heat could win this series, and but I think again, it's just like the extreme would have to happen. 45% from 3 again, and Jimmy Butler is basically putting Jokic in a chokehold, and it's like, is Jimmy Butler, is he a top 3 player in the NBA type deal? Because so I think it's going to be Nuggets in 5, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, my last thing too is there's been a lot of talk between Mike Malone and the media and how they're kind of slighting you guys and stuff. There's nowhere to hide now. Everyone's going to be watching. How does it feel for you as a fan of a team that doesn't really get their attention throughout the regular season, that now you're going to be on the biggest stage in the NBA? I'm guessing it's already been surreal for you, like seeing the finals logo on the Nuggets jerseys and like just seeing all the media stuff. Like, this is an experience that I still haven't had with my NBA team. And I mean, how does all that feel? And like, do you feel like you got to win this? Like, this feels like it's meant to be for you guys, man. And I'm not going to lie, I have a little bit of an agenda to push as well with the whole seeding thing. I said top 3 seeds win rings. So I'm going to need my agenda to keep pushing, because these Clipper fans, they need to realize that our process is bad in the regular season. And they were just like, whatever seed we get, it doesn't matter. I just don't believe in that. I believe in creating good process and continuity throughout the year.
Bro. You see what they're saying now about the Nuggets run, because they beat an 8 seed, a 4 seed, and a 7 seed, and now people are complaining, saying it's a weak ring, when it's like, well, they're the 1st seed. And again, to your point, like the Heat had to do this. They beat the 1 seed, they beat the 5 seed, and then they beat the 2 seed. That is almost impossible to do. To your point, which is why you got to take the regular season serious.
Absolutely. And then one thing, I think the last thing I'm going to say is pace is going to be big in this series. Same with the Celtics series. The faster the pace, the more it favors you. Heat are going to want to muck it up and slow it down. One thing I love about Jokic is he has that ability, even like Magic did it to an extent, just a lot slower, but he can get the rebound and just go and push 5-on-4 numbers. And I think that's such a luxury. But yeah, man, thanks. Hey, thanks so much for joining me, bro. This was really great.
I got a question for you. Could you love basketball history?
Yes.
Do you think that if Jokic completes the job, is this a top 3 offensive season of all time for you?
Wow. In my time watching basketball, it absolutely is. It's hard for me because I haven't gone through the 80s yet and seen Magic. I think he's probably put together some insane. Yeah, go ahead. Say something.
Where are you right now in your timeline watch? Because you're watching basketball history.
71, but don't worry. This summer we're getting back to it. But I think, look, 2016 Curry would have been a great one, but he didn't get it done.
Yeah, it didn't end it.
I can't really give an individual player the props for 2017 and 18 because KD and Steph both were just so nuclear. Dude, it might be the best offensive individual season that I've experienced in my lifetime. And we talk about offense. Obviously, the NBA, since the three-pointer has gone crazy, the last 7 years, it's been more of an offense-heavy league more than anything. So in these last 7 years, I'd say, yeah, this might be the best offensive season of my time watching hoops, honestly, if he wins it. I really think so.
Yeah, the ones that come to mind for me are the 87 year for Magic.
Yeah, that one's crazy.
Yeah, that was an incredible year. I wasn't alive for that one either. But again, it's just like researching the 91 Bulls team with Michael Jordan. Like I thought, I've had a Jordan agenda for years. I thought Jordan was the best player in the NBA by 87. So I was full bought in. Then I was just his 84, 85, 86, 87, his 4th year in the NBA. I thought he was the best player in the league. And then I think the 2012 season from LeBron, obviously it's incredible. 2-way, 2018 Bron, 2015, 16 Steph. But again, he fell off a little bit in the playoffs. But Jokic, bro, if Jokic goes from averaging a 25, 12, 10 triple-double on 70% true shooting to 30, 13, and 10 to an NBA championship through 4 rounds, yeah, I don't know. And Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo on the run too. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
30, 13, and 10 on 54% shooting, 47% from 3. This is just these are Wilt numbers right here, man. Or should I say Jokic numbers. Shout out to everybody that listened, man. Appreciate everybody for joining. Swipa, let them know where they can find you, even though a lot of people are here from your channel anyway.
Yeah, bro. Swipa Cam on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. And shout out to my man Dime Dropper, one of the best locked on sports covers, period. And obviously one of the best Clippers analysts and reporters as well. So shout out to you, Dime.
Thank you so much. Everybody, you can follow me on the same things, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Dime Dropper Pod, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more LA sports, NBA history, and NBA content. I'll be live after every single night of the finals. So let's see how it goes. I got the Nuggets in 6 making history, man. I can't wait to see you with your crazy celebrations after it happens. Fingers crossed. Peace, everybody. Let us know what you think in the comment section. What's your prediction for the series?